Chapter 17. Emancipating slaves. Emancipation means to remove the state of being owned. Encouragement to emancipate slaves and its merit. Allah has said, but He has made no effort to pass on the path that is steep. And what will make you know the path that is steep? It is freeing a slave. Narrated that the Prophet said, any man who emancipates a Muslim will have Allah rescue each limb of his from the hellfire due to every limb of he who he emancipated. Narrated that the Prophet said, three will be given their reward twice. A man from the people of the book who believed in his Prophet and then found out about the Prophet and believed in him, followed him and attested to him. For him there are rewards twice on an owned slave who fulfills the right of Allah and the right of his owner. For him there are rewards twice, a man who had a female slave and fed her well and taught her well and then freed her and married her. For him there are rewards twice. What is the best slave to free? I asked the Messenger of Allah, what is the best deed? He replied, belief in Allah and jihad for His sake. I then asked, what is the best slave? He replied, the one with the highest price and who is dearest to his owners. When is it preferred to free slaves? The Prophet ordered this freeing of slaves during an eclipse. Causes of emancipation. Emancipation can be by the owner voluntarily freeing the slave out of a desire to please Allah, driven by the aforementioned hadith that point to the virtues of such an act. Emancipation can also occur through ownership, that is, if anyone comes into possession of a relative within the prohibited degrees of marriage, that slave becomes free. Narrated that the Prophet said, if anyone owns a relative within the prohibited degrees of marriage, he is free. A slave can be emancipated if part of his ownership is freed. In other words, if a slave is co-owned by partners and one of them frees his shares and he is a person of means, then the remaining value of the slave is to be estimated and he should give that money to his partners and free the slave completely. Narrated that the Messenger of Allah said, whoever emancipates his share in a slave and he has the money for the rest of the price of the slave should be fairly evaluated and he should give his partners their share and free the slave completely, otherwise he has freed only the portion he has freed. If the emancipator does not have the means to free the slave completely, he has only freed the portion he freed. However, the slave should then try to work to pay off the remainder of his freedom, so that the owners may receive his complete value. Narrated that the Prophet said, whoever frees his portion of a slave should free the slave completely by paying the rest of his price if he has the means to do so. Otherwise, the value of the slave is to be estimated, and he should be helped to work without hardship to pay the rest of his value. Freeing a slave upon one's death. A slave can be freed upon one's death by being told, if I die, you are free after my death. In such a case, when the person dies, the slave will become free as long as the value of the slave is less than 1/3 of the deceased's property. A man died while having 6 slaves and no other wealth, and he had freed them upon his death. The Messenger of Allah divided them into 3 groups and drew lots between them, freeing 2 of